You're listening to Paratalk Radio with Ted Wolf and Psychic Cindy on paratalkradio.com, a member of the WLFE digital broadcast family, and is intended for listeners over 16. The topics, views, and opinions expressed on our show may not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of Paratalk Radio, our hosts, or our sponsors. Now, here are your hosts, Ted and Cindy.
No, Cindy, just Ted right now, and then our special guest, Mr. Jeff. How are you, Jeff? How you doing tonight, buddy? Can you hear me okay?
I'm good, Ted. Thanks.
There you go. All right, so we have Mr. Jeff Krause in the house from California, actually, where it's bright and sunny there as well, hopefully as it is here. He is from which part of California? I forgot which part.
San Luis Obispo. I'm in San Luis Obispo, the Central Coast.
There you go. And he is a representative of MUFON for the state of California, the director. And we are talking UFOs tonight. We talked, I'm trying to think of, last week we talked to another gentleman from that area, and he joined us, and we talked about UFOs as well. But, you know, there's been a lot going on with UFOs all over the place these days. A lot of sightings, a lot of inconclusive stuff, and then the government, of course, doing their whole, oh yes, we've been studying UFOs. Finally, they admit it. Finally, they say, yeah, we can't lie to you no more. It's like, duh. Oh.
I think it's pretty amazing that the Pentagon admitted that the videos that we've seen for a couple years now, namely the Tic Tac video and the gimbal video and the other one, that they're, finally admitting it. And because of, the state of the country and the pandemic right now, basically it was shot over everyone's heads that they didn't notice.
Right.
So, their timing probably couldn't have been much better. They could say, yeah, we told you, you didn't notice. Yeah.
Well, the beautiful Miss Cindy is finally with us here. And you know what? We've been talking aliens for I don't know how long. And, the whole thing with the government, it's amazing. And now people are to the point where they're saying, okay, why should we believe you now? Why should we care what you're saying now? Because you've been denying all this stuff for how many years?
Right. Oh, yeah. 70 years.
How many decades?
Roughly.
How many decades?
7 decades of lies, subterfuge, disinformation, whatever flavor you want to call it, but it all boils down to the same thing, keeping the truth from the American people.
I know they're amazing. It's like, oh, we knew. We knew you knew. That's why we didn't bother. We figured you'd figure it out, so we don't need to come publicly and tell you about it.
Well, okay, first of all, if a statement were to come from the government, like you said, how many people would take it seriously or think it's some sort of conspiracy theory or things like that? But let's back up a little bit. In fact, I'm going to back up in segments. I'm going to back up a little bit to a year ago when the Navy said that, yes, those videos are real. And the commander, when asked, well, is there anything else, said, oh, yeah, we got more, but you'll never see it. I mean, hello, American people. And truthfully, I think the Navy has really been the leader in what's been going on officially in the study of UFOs, because let's face it, our planet is mostly water. And if you were looking for some place to hide out of view, you don't even have to go to any great length other than just going below the wave and you're out of view.
Right.
Whatever you do beyond that is a plus. And the technology they have, the only, like I am famous for saying, the only difference between a USO and a UFO is the fact that it goes in the water. Only difference.
Right. And I was talking to Cookie Stringfellow, who is for New York. She's one of our UFO people, and
the cookster.
Yeah, and she was telling us about so many things. And I guess they've changed even the title to where they're not even using UFO anymore. They're using what is it? Unidentified aerial.
UAP is more the acronym. Look, I'm a fogey. I'm going to call them flying saucers until the day I die, especially since I have seen an actual flying saucer, not the Kenneth Arnold variety, which, really the term flying saucer was a misnomer back then, because he described the Delta Wing craft that he saw. Their flight characteristic was as if saucers were skipping across the water. Well, the reporters literally flew at that and said flying saucers. And so from that point on, the image was a flying saucer. When actually the craft that Kenneth Arnold saw was much more interesting and practically identical to the craft that crashed at Roswell, which, that whole week or 2 weeks in June there, gosh darn it, I'd love to have a Wayback Machine and go back to that 2-week period there, because you got Maury Island going on, you got Kenneth Arnold sighting, and then you got Roswell. Holy buckets, it's a holiday,
Right.
Wouldn't that be fun? Jeez. But people wonder why, when they showed up at Roswell, why they were so prepared and had the game plan. Right. And the only way you could be prepared like that and think of everything ahead of time is if perhaps you had prior experience, which would suggest possibly another crash, such as, say the Cape Girardeau crash in 1941. Which just had an anniversary last month. That's why I'm still harping about it. But I think it was one of the more important crashes, though, because right after that is when Roosevelt put together the plan for civilians to help watch the skies. We weren't quite into World War II yet, but he was concerned because of the Nazi fighting in Germany and everything. And then to have this come in our own skies. So he, within 2 weeks, started that program for civilians to help watch the skies and report to the military anything that they saw. Which, coincidentally, 2 weeks after Roswell, Truman started what? Oh, the NSA, National Security Act, and then the No Such Agency.
Right.
Seems to
we
be
don't
a
exist.
I love that.
Seems to be a thing. 2 weeks within an incident, we do something to counter that and address the situation.
Yeah. Well, it seems like they've been doing that forever, So they've been doing it forever. And so let's take just a quick break here and just say this. Hello to Colette, and I don't know if you can see him, Cindy. Can you see them all?
No, I can. I can see. Oh yes, Colette from Liverpool, UK. Barry Martz.
There you go.
Steve Barry and Jamie Gamber and Scott in Tennessee.
Hello,
Hi guys.
Scott in Tennessee. We got Sharon Knight over here. Ernie Atwell, Michelle Duell-Wagner. Daniela Stass, and we also have Stephen Brandt and more that we can't see because of the other comments,
maybe I should
the comment feeds. So
I like your backdrop, Cindy. It reminds me of an artwork my daughter would have done.
Thank you so much.
It's very bright. I like it.
It's actually the chakras. You
right.
can't see the green. A little bit you can see the green.
Nice.
Thank you so much. I love it.
So guys,
it's my hippie-ish.
There you go. Hello, Pamela Phillips and Kenny Biddle as well. Now, I wanted to apologize to everybody. First of all, I had an issue here. Everybody knows that we had to bring the studio back to the house because of this whole COVID thing.
Yeah,
and we had an issue where power's been going in and out here, and I lost my internet a couple times, but I finally got it back. So we were a half hour late, and I apologize for that. And thank you so much, Jeff, for hanging in there with us. Thank you so much for hanging in. I appreciate that. And Robert White from Australia just popped in as well. So We're getting.
I want to
all
show
over
you
the
my
world.
new device. Hey,
Ooh,
Robert.
what you got?
Okay.
What you got, honey?
This is an amazing little device because remember, I don't have an Ethernet port.
Yeah, so that's UFO technology right there.
It is UFO technology. It is Ethernet to USB. Thank you, Jet.
Look at
Isn't that amazing?
That's amazing.
It's amazing. A shout out to my nephew, Scotty, who is the computer guy in our family, and he happened to have one for me and saved me some money.
Awesome.
And he gave it to me. It is awesome. It is. Good. So now I have Ethernet to USB. Look at all this technology that I'm spewing here, Teddy.
Yeah. Hello, Ruth Such. That also says hi, Cindy, and hi, Teddy. Hi. How are you? We're good. Thank you so much. So we're talking with. Go ahead.
I felt bad because I could not hear you guys on my phone. I've been here in behind this in backstage for the whole time, and I couldn't hear you guys when you went live. So I apologize.
No,
so
you're okay.
I'm just gonna get off and I'll come back in on my computer, then I'll hear you.
The whole time we were actually just mouthing and not actually saying anything to make you think that.
Okay, perfect.
Actually, that was Jeff. I was actually like, what the hell? Why can't I hear him? And Jeff is just playing around in the back room, So. Oh, great sense of humor. I'll give him that, right? So
happy Memorial Day to everybody.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Same to you.
Thank you. I'm sorry. We normally are just with our family and stuff. It was early this year, though.
Yeah. Everything is. What's funny is we've even had the thing, Jeff, where people said that the COVID thing was an alien thing, and I'm like, excuse me, come on, you guys.
What?
The amount of what do they call it? Conspiracy theories and. Oh my God, it's amazing.
I may be weird, but I'm going to listen to the scientists and doctors who literally spent billions of dollars and most of their life studying this exact same scenario and how to deal with this. I'm going to listen to them rather than any politician anywhere. MUFON is, the world's leader in investigating the scientific approach to UFOlogy. Okay, so, I'd kind of be a whack job if I wasn't science-based. Right. I am science-based. I'm going to follow the science. I'm going to listen to the doctors because you know what? They're saving lives and they're dealing with the situation on a daily basis. And what they're having to deal with, especially in the state you're in. Oh my God. It is just unbearable to think of the loss in human lives, the suffering, and these people went running in wholeheartedly. Amen. Love you all. Thank you for everything you've done to any of you listening. It's just, this is the most terrific thing really to hit mankind.
We've seen in our lifetime. Yeah.
Well, we didn't have social media during the Spanish flu epidemic. If we had, maybe some of those folks wouldn't have been knuckleheads. They'd have listened, and it wouldn't have spread like it did. We can only hope, and I say this because, I look at the beaches here in California, which, I live spitting distance from the beach. You won't catch me there. Especially not on a crowded weekend. All the tourists come in town. Yeah, it's insane. It's like everyone thinks everything went to normal, and the virus took the weekend off. I hate to tell you, people, the virus did not take the time off. It didn't get the memo. It's still out there. And were it living and had the ability to laugh, it would be laughing at your silly ass.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people. They were all day. I mean, I've been watching the news feeds where there's a ton of people at beaches. There's a ton of people at
my mom said that.
This is really bad. This is what makes it worse than what happened before, because our supply chain is already severely damaged. Our food chain, the most important thing, is reeling right now. And if we have a wave, which we're going to have because of the way people are acting, We're going to have a bigger wave. It's going to hit even harder. And you think you had trouble finding toilet paper before, buddy? You better start saving the corn cobs, okay?
What are we doing with the corn cobs?
No. Yeah, no, I get it. Because look at the way meat is right now. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I went to look at meat at the market, and it was $10 for something that you normally paid like $4 for. It was like, oh my God, the prices are amazing. But
we have a lot of locally sourced meat where I live. I'm fortunate to be in an area where they've kept the prices pretty much down to manageable levels. I mean, the worst thing was eggs. I think for a while got to be twice of what they were, and a lot of that I had to laugh when I found out a lot of that problem was because they didn't have the cartons to put the darn things in. But
no kidding.
Yeah,
no kidding.
But the problem seems to kind of smooth out, and I noticed that the prices are going back down a little bit. And again, it depends on where you shop. If you shop at a private butcher, everything's going to be a lot higher than if you shop at a chain grocery store like Kroger or Ralph's, as opposed to, say, a bargain grocery outlet, which might, say, carry meats from a local ranch or local slaughterhouse, as opposed to more national chain like Tyson or something.
Yeah. All right, so lots of people still popping in here. Hello,
Hi,
Phil
people.
Simone. We got them all in here.
I'm making my watch party.
There you
Cool.
go. I got a real interesting question here for you already. Since we're talking to Jeff Krause from MUFON.
Thank you. I was going to bring that up for you.
Yep, he is the California State Director for MUFON, and here's the question. When you get the chance to ask the guest, Tom DeLong has been tearing up his rotator cuffs, patting himself on the back, taking credit for DOD's acknowledgement of the videos. Does MUFON or the guest personally give Tommy D and TTSA any credit?
Well, they were the ones that released it, so yeah. And quite frankly, To the Stars Academy has been doing a lot of groundbreaking work and a lot of research. And, the more the merrier is my feeling. The more information and the more sources we have working together, the sooner we're going to be able to reap some of the benefits of the technology involved and other things that, could help people globally. The technologies there wouldn't just get us moving faster around the planet. They could perhaps help us with medicines and other things, ways to feed people or get them clean water, things that are vitally important to everyone on the planet. That's why, I view, and MUFON does as well, the whole phenomena of extraterrestrial visitation as being the most important event in man's history.
Yeah. We have Robert White here who is in Australia, but he's our comic relief as well, and he brought up a good question, but in a comedic way. But cattle mutilation, I mean, is that still happening? Do you still get reports on cattle mutilation and stuff like that?
It's still happening in the Midwest. I haven't really had any reports in my local area lately. There were a few up in Monterey County not too long ago, and there is some going on up in Oregon and the Washington area, I believe.
Now, do we know why? I mean, do we have an educated guess on why this is a thing with visitations?
No.
None
I mean,
whatsoever.
there's a lot of reported. Again, I'm the science guy. I want to see some scientific evidence or something that I view as valid.
So they're just claims.
We really don't have an answer. What we do know is what it isn't. Okay, we're pretty sure that we don't have any way to make some of these incisions out in the field, which look like high-powered laser cuts. We know that we can't do that. To have a portable laser to be able to do the kind of cuts that are there, it would not be feasible to take out into the field to use in these situations. So that's one thing we know that it isn't. It isn't our type of laser.
Right.
We're pretty sure that the exsanguination part of it uses another technology beyond something we have, because there's carcasses are left without a drop of blood in them and cleanly taken to where it's not blood on the outside or anywhere on the carcass as well.
Right.
Same with the select parts that are taken from these animals. To try and do this on the fly in the field in a short amount of time requires extreme precision and high-powered equipment. But then also, some of these animals are found like they've been dropped from great heights and no blood around the area where they're found or anything like that. And there's even a few reports sporadically of some of them being found in trees.
Wow.
So, it varies. All different kinds of reports. The last one that I had around here was, probably around 74, or not 74, 2014, I think, or 15, right around in that area. And it was actually Denise Marcel that clued me into this one. It wasn't one that came into MUFON, I don't believe. This is one that Denise found out about somehow and then told me about, and we looked into it together. And still, it's kind of unresolved. The police were not fans of the theory at all and seemed to poo-poo it. But the photographic evidence that I saw and from the statement of the witness, it fit with other mutilations that I've seen in other states. So, but it's not anything that's occurs very often, not in this area anyway. But I imagine in areas where there's a lot more beef production and larger cattle ranches, it does occur still. And on BLM land, there's a lot of stuff going on, I hear, not just cattle.
Scott in Tennessee, he's kind of following along the lines of Robert White. I love his comment. Cows, not well known as tree climbers.
Well, not with that attitude, Scott. Jeez. Come on.
And Robert White says the aliens don't want to wait in drive-thrus.
Have you ever noticed that no one ever says they saw a toilet in these things?
Yeah, that's true.
So, you don't want to wait in a drive-thru. They probably got the foot tapping. Hurry up, come on. Hurry up, come on. Yeah, because they don't have a restroom.
I just took my shoes off. I'm getting relaxed.
There you go.
That's fine.
Now, this kind of brings up another thing when you were talking about the police kind of poo-pooing it. I mean, I know a few police officers, and I've had conversations about UFOs with them and stuff. And it's amazing how much they do poo-poo it, as you say. They just shake it off. But yet some of these officers say, yeah, I've seen stuff I can't explain, but who am I going to tell? Who am I going to tell?
Well, let me be perfectly clear, first of all. I am not a police officer, nor have I ever played one on TV.
Me neither.
I do get a lot of good reports from police officers. I've trained a lot of ex-police officers and current police officers as field investigators. Some of them actually do okay. It's not the profession you choose before you start investigating UFOs that actually matters. It's the mindset you have when you're looking into them. Believe it or not, the best investigators for UFOs, I tend to find are musicians.
Really?
Really?
Wait, why musicians?
Especially if they're musicians that have played for most of their life. Because of the neural pathways that they develop and different ways of thinking and able to handle multiple viewpoints of problems at the same time.
Wow.
So you're also saying like ADDers and ADHDers could probably do it the same way as well.
It probably could, as long as they didn't get hung up on certain aspects of, because you face it, this is the muddiest water anyone's going to wade through.
Yeah, that's true.
So, that might be a hindrance to some of them because they get hung up on some of the minutia. But, who knows? I mean, there's many different people with many different interests, and you don't necessarily need to be a rocket scientist to be interested in UFOs or to have an ability to logically investigate them and figure out what's going on. You got to figure 95% of the reports that come into us are just misidentified and easily explainable. It's that 5% that you really have to work at and know, how to break it apart and figure out what it might be before you can figure out, well, you don't know what it is.
Right.
I can't write. Why can't I type in the comments? That's weird.
I don't know.
It's aliens.
Yeah.
Anyway, I can't. So it's a chakra. It's a lotus flower. It's a lotus flower in the chakras around it. I think he's talking about if it's a sun conjure.
I'll be willing to bet you've read The Golden Dawn before, huh?
The Golden Dawn, I'm not sure if I know what that is.
Israel Regardie?
What's that?
By Israel Regardie?
Oh,
okay,
no,
write this down. Get out your paper and pencil. Write down The Golden Dawn. You can get the whole 798-page PDF for free, I think.
All right, let me see. Nope, but there's I was like, where'd my pen go? Purple. The Golden Dawn, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
No UFO stuff in it. It's just a lot of basics on, Earth energy and.
Perfect.
It's right up your alley, Cindy. Trust me.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I appreciate it, Jack.
So I want to go back now. One thing that's always kind of been in the back of my mind with the whole UFO thing,
Scott.
Is everybody misidentified these things. That's what they say, is they misidentify. And that's what you were saying, is like 95% of them, they're misidentified. But back in like the 40s and the 50s, with what they were seeing, I mean, it's got to be tough. I mean, today we have the technology, but back then, I mean, it had to have been a lot harder. And I guess people must have looked at each other crazy back then. Well, saying, "Oh, I saw a UFO in the 1940s and 50s." I mean, we don't have the technology.
Some of the best photos we have of genuine, bona fide disc craft came in the period between the 40s and before 1970. The McMinnville UFO photos from Oregon, those are great. They made it in the Look magazine. The photos by Rex Heflin that he took in Santa Ana with Polaroid camera. Those UFO photos are great, fantastic. Those have been edited many times. These
hard to fake a Polaroid, I'd feel.
Oh, yeah, no, you really can't. But let me show you. I don't know if this will come up on the camera. This is a copy of an article I wrote for MUFON Journal. I'm going to try and hold that up close. Does that look like a craft to you?
Okay, lift it up.
Up a little higher, I think.
A little higher. Oh, what is that's?
Wow. It's the white spot, the bright white spot there in the middle of the photo is kind of what you want to be looking at.
Yeah.
Okay. This actual case came in, and at first when I saw the photo, I said, "Oh wow, that definitely has my interest." And so I talked to the witness, and she lived near the beach, and it was later in the afternoon. She'd just gotten off work and she's pulling into her apartment building, and all of a sudden saw this through the windshield of her car. And she, "Oh man, I got to get a picture. And as she was digging in her purse to get out her phone and get the picture, she watched it literally fade away. And she said, oh, darn. But she sat there for a minute and waited. She goes, maybe it'll come back. And sure enough, within a couple minutes, slowly it came back. And she was able to get the picture. And she said, well, then she got out of the car and wanted to get a good picture, but when she got out of the car, by then it had gone. Wow. So she went inside. Okay. Wow. So you look at the elements of this story, and what set me off the trail at first, in the original photo, you could see a lot better. I wish I'd have shared it with you beforehand, but the lower part of the bushes here in the original photo, you can see like some white light, like maybe something that's kind of lit through the leaves, except it's really dense and it's not light. So I started thinking, well, okay, she's at the beach and it's in the afternoon. I looked at the weather, and sure enough, the fog was coming in the clouds. And so enough fog on the windshield to get it wet. And I could see other spots in the photo once I started looking at it where it looked like some more moisture developing. And I was talking about this photo with Mark D'Antonio, and he pointed out, well, what's that in the trees? You know, it looks pretty bright right there. And so I went back and looked at the photo again, and sure enough, the sun is right behind the tree.
Oh, yeah.
We come back here. So the sun is, you know, backlit through the tree. Now, what makes a photograph?
Well, a photograph, you know.
Light the amount of light being exposed.
Light carries the information onto either the negative or the sensor if you're using a digital camera.
The amount of aperture.
The image on it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, light carries information. It's a basic theme with a lot of things and technology these days. Because if you have a wet windshield, of course, you're going to be able to catch a lot more light reflections on it, as I noticed. And once I took this triangular shape and superimposed it and flipped it and matched it over to right there, the triangular shape in the leaves, and found they fit perfectly, I was able to ascertain that it was the sun coming through right there. And this is actually on the windshield of her car, not up in the air in the sky. That triangular pattern of the light is hitting right there, which is why it disappeared a couple times, you know, and then came back. Well, because the fog, of course, comes in front of the sun and blocks it out.
Right.
So, awesome.
Yeah, not everything that you see is actually what you're seeing. And we get a whole lot of photos, especially when people take inside their car. They don't realize that that little blue light from their charger is reflecting on their windshield or any number of other things like that. And we get a lot of photos like that, or inside houses where the lamp behind them is reflecting off the sliding glass door, and they had just enough Harvey Wallbangers to make it interesting.
Oh my gosh, do you have a bird? Oh my gosh, that is a bird right behind you.
Yeah, that's my fancy green cheek conure, Monty, back there.
Hi, Monty.
He's also known as Mr. Cuddlesworth. He loves to cuddle, and so he also likes to speak up whenever I'm on the air.
Yes, I understand.
So Robert White said, and he's in Australia, he says back in the 40s and 50s, the aliens were perfecting the cloaking tech. There was a craft down here in Tully, far north of Queensland, that rose up from a field in front of a farmer in the 50s as well.
Awesome.
Wow, that's cool.
Thanks for that, Robert. And Robert, are you familiar with the case? Oh God, what was that town? Brunschilly, Australia, I think it was. The farmer came around the bend in a pickup truck and thought he saw, first of all, one of his cows floating in the air. And then he thought he saw what was a Cessna flying behind him. But on closer examination, and when you look in the photograph, it was actually a disc. And his cow was underneath it with legs kicking. That was in Chile, Australia. I believe it was 1977, if you're familiar with that.
Wow. I was wondering what was going on. I think Cindy's getting a phone call.
It's an air raid.
My son is calling me, I think.
The air raid siren.
The air raid siren. That's hysterical.
Okay, and now Scott in Tennessee says possible explanation as to why the older photographs are so good. Because back then, cameras were good, and people had to know how to use them.
I don't know.
That is one good possible explanation.
Why wouldn't it be?
You know, there's a case that I've been working on for a while that I call the slow UFO. And slow doesn't mean it's speed. It's slow stands for San Luis Obispo. But this was actually, let's see right there if I can. You see that disc?
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, yeah.
Okay. When I originally found this photo, it was just a black and white copy on the internet that I found before it went to Wright-Patterson and FTIC and was classified. But the original black and white photo I found of it, only information was it said July 7th, 1967, San Luis Obispo. Mm-hmm. Well, you know, so that's interesting. I live in San Luis Obispo. You got my interest. I want to find out more about it. So I kept searching and searching and searching and could never find anyone taking credit for a good photo of a disc, which I thought was strange.
That is strange.
But I found like a couple hundred instances of it in different weird websites here and there over the internet until all of a sudden I found a copy of the photo that had been unclassified from FTIC, which is, you know, Foreign Technology Division, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Project Blue Book, all that happy stuff, which clued me in that it was actually a Project Blue Book case. And I was able to find out the file number 11864. So I figured, you know, okay, this is some good information. Maybe now I can find out more from people in the town here. You know, I went to the historical museum thinking, of all places that would possibly know of something as monumental as this happening in our town, they might have a record of it. And they were pretty much flabbergasted by the photo and had no idea, no information whatsoever. And I was kind of dejected by that. You know, I thought I was going to get the answers when I walked in, and no one knew anything. Kind of moped my way back to the parking structure, got in my van, sat there looking at the photo on my iPad. And as I looked up over the steering wheel, I noticed I'm looking out at the exact same mountain as in the photo. It was like I was in the same spot where it was taken. So I was able to nail down that it was Bishop Peak in the photo. So knowing the location is quite a bit more. I was able to write a Freedom of Information request. I wrote to many different branches, and it was the Defense Intelligence Agency that I really was surprised by their answer. They flat out said that they were unable to meet my request within the specified time period due to a couple of factors, one of them being the unusual circumstances of the situation, which I can only take to mean that I knew the date, location, and all that, and had a photo. And they also stated that they had to talk to other people involved with the situation on how they wanted to handle it. In other words, you know, how are we going to cover this up? And that was that. That was as far as I got on an answer with that. Now, since then, 50 years have passed. And so I feel that, you know, probably a lot more of the meat and potatoes of the file has probably been unclassified. I know that the report file contains 12 pages. I just haven't got to see them yet. So I'm going to write another round of Freedom of Information requests and see what more I can get out of this before I finish the book. But I think it's really interesting that nobody has come forward and claimed such a good photograph.
That's weird.
Not only that, if you look on my Facebook page sometime and you find another copy of this where you can look at it really good, if you look at the back part of the disc, you see how part of it is black?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know, that's not shadow. Again, that goes to light. being able to come and carry the information of that photo back to the camera. And this is my theory. Okay, now don't take this to the bank, but it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. It's my theory that the field that is propelling the craft at that point is so strong that light cannot pass through right there to come back to the camera carrying that information.
Wow.
I'm on my phone and I'm here.
Yeah, I know. I think because I see you're typing, and actually when you type, it comes back as like little booms, like a little drum.
Does it?
Yeah.
I wonder why. I don't have any. I wonder
know.
why. Oh, you know why? My mic is right above it.
Yeah, that's probably why.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
Project Blue Book, you brought that up. Now, I want to say that Tim Conwell is in here in the chat room, and him and his father are both ufologists. They have
Yes,
been,
they
been
are.
doing work here in New York
Gary.
for a long time. His father's written several books on the subject. And
Awesome.
yeah, and I don't know if he's a part of MUFON or not. I have no idea. I guess Tim can answer that question for me, if he is or not. But we've spoken to a couple different MUFON members from, well, one from Pennsylvania, another, like I said, another one from California, and then we have Cookie here,
Yep.
and Captain Jack from New York State Police Department. He works for me and my organization, but he's also a MUFON member as well, field investigator.
That's cool.
So he gets called out for that stuff as well. Recently, I all I can think of is the ones where they said that they saw lights over Lake Ontario.
Excuse me.
And for the longest time, you know, even the news covered it as possible UFO sightings, and then they found out that it was not there. It was some type of flare or something from someone, but it was still interesting at the time. But kind of go back to where I was headed. I got off track there. Project Blue
Squirrel.
Book. Yeah, exactly. It happens. Project Blue Book, when that came out, it's funny how the government will say, I'm releasing this information, but 99% of what they release is blacked out, and you can't understand, what exactly they're saying, what the actual information is,
Okay, I was never an Air Force officer, nor did I play one on TV. But this you can take to the bank.
Homemade brownie.
Project Blue Book, you might as well name Project Whitewash.
Okay.
It was the Air Force's attempt to have a public relations tete-a-tete with the public on the subject of UFOs to assuage the public's fears that perhaps the Air Force didn't know what was going on in our skies. But let's be perfectly clear. None of the good reports ever went to Project Blue Book. In fact, by law, they weren't allowed to. JANAP 146 specifically states specific ways matters like that are to be reported. And guess what? Project Blue Book isn't in the reporting chain.
Wow.
Interesting.
They got select cases sent to them to deal with and to investigate. Ones that they thought perhaps they could put a spin on and assuage the public's fears. But, when that kind of backfired and they started getting laughed at with their ridiculous explanations, that even after a while, JL and Hynek started saying, hey, wait a minute, this ain't going to fly and there's something going on here. In fact, he ended up starting the Center for UFO Studies and becoming a well-respected UFO researcher after that. This is well after Project Blue Book closed its doors, thanks to the Condon Committee. Did I say condom? I'm sorry, I meant Condon Committee, which of course had already come to their final analysis before they even started the project. Edward Condon flat out stated that UFOs didn't exist. And he was in no way going to pay any homage to them whatsoever. So we pretty much know that even though the final published University of Colorado study holds many fascinating cases in it, that you can still say some of those are good unknown cases. Still, they found that it was cause to close Project Blue Book. And again, the Air Force, in their math wizardry, when they closed Project Blue Book, had to state that, even the 3% of unknowns we feel could have been solved had we more information. But if you turn their own freaking page and look at the graph, it was actually 21.5%, which is not rounding up from 3. It's not a misprint from 3. It's not this weird new math, which, God help me, I do not get. It's a flat out lie. 21.5 is so far from 3 that Trump probably invented it.
Oh my gosh.
I love it.
All right, so now we have So
Cindy was eating a brownie. I'm outing myself to all of you, just so you know it was not keto.
Yes, Scott. Right. Blue Book also had a counterintelligence function, which I might add, Roswell, let me back up here to what I said about Roswell. I'm sure a lot of you know that I work closely with Denise Marcel, and I know the Marcel family pretty well. Mm-hmm. Of course, I might have talked about Roswell a time or two with them, but I knew about Roswell way before I met them. I knew about Roswell back in the 70s, early 70s, because I had an aunt and uncle that lived in Arcadia, New Mexico, which is just south of Roswell. And my uncle happened to work on the Roswell Fire Department way back when. So I was no stranger to the fact that something happened there. But let's go to how they showed up at Roswell. Okay, when Brazel came into town with the wreckage and showed it at the Army base, they sent out the chief intelligence officer, Major Jesse Marcel, who is the head intelligence officer for the 509th Bomb Group. Okay, now let's be clear. The 509th was the only atomic bomb group in the world at the time.
Right.
And he was the head intelligence officer for the 509th Bomb Group. So he was not a doomcoff. He was a smart fella. Okay.
A doomcoff.
Now, they sent him out. Now, let's get this straight, too. Everyone thinks the Roswell crash. It's so far from Roswell, that's a misnomer. The only reason we refer to it as Roswell is because Major Jesse Marcel was stationed at Roswell Army Airfield. There was no Air Force at the time. It was only Army still. And that was in Roswell. So he had to drive, along with Cavett and the little Jeep, 90 miles from Roswell. And by the time they got out there on this ranch, it was nighttime and it was dark. They had to bunk down in the bunkhouse and then go out in the morning to where the wreckage was in the field. Okay, so it was quite a distance removed and a bit to get out there and see it. But he boxed up some of the stuff, came back into town, stopped at his ranch house and showed his wife and Jesse Marcel Jr. the stuff. They played with it on the floor a little bit, packed it back up, and then he took it to Roswell Army Airfield, where it was viewed by Colonel Blanchard, and they put out the famous release that a flying disc had been recovered in Roswell, and, of course, run with it from history. But who went out after he brought back that box was not the 509th Bomb Group. It was not the same folksy fellas there from that base. It was all of a sudden a counterintelligence group that showed up. My feeling is that they were at the second crash site in Corona already, which is where the main body of the disc and the alien bodies were. And when they heard about this other wreckage field that the guy brought into town in Roswell, they sent the rest of the counterintelligence corps there to button up the town and silence everybody and claim all the wreckage that they had and get it all boxed up and shipped off to Wright-Patterson Airfield, which we do know now that most of the wreckage that was boxed up in those crates did go to Wright-Patterson Airfield and some went to the Battelle Memorial Institute. So that trail, we know that it was set and covered. But yeah, it's pretty funny that counterintelligence corps would show up to what some people think is the first exposure we have to a crashed UFO, And that's just not the case. They had the full Monty back in Cape Girardeau in 1941.
Wow. Wow, it's amazing. You don't think about like when somebody reports like a UFO crash and stuff, you think government's going to show up. You think, Army, so on and so forth. All these people are going to show up to this crash. But honestly, I mean, how many I can't even guess on how many I would think actually would show up. I mean, Air Force, CIA or anything like that. I mean, there had to be a ton of people that show up to a UFO crash site, but what happens to the farmer that finds it? What happens to the person that finds it and then takes a piece of it? Do they actually go through? I mean, just like I have no knowledge, do they actually go through and I don't even know where to go from there. I mean, what happens to those people?
Well, if they're dumb enough to walk up to it, they might have died. Are you familiar with the Clearest crash in Mexico?
No, okay. I'm not.
Well, contrary to popular belief, we do follow the things in the skies on radar, and a lot of the fast walkers or fast moving objects we're able to track. And we do have agencies, believe it or not, that are interested in UFOs and do track suspected UFOs when they're in flight. And it just so happens there was one that they had been tracking, came in across the Gulf of Mexico, and they were watching its track, and they had also noticed this plane that had taken off from El Paso, Texas. And about the time that they converged over Clearest, Mexico, both readings all of a sudden went out. So satellites were tasked to fly over and get photographs of the area, which they were able to get relatively soon. And a convoy from the Mexican Army was photographed with the tractor trailers and, a convoy going out to pick this wreckage up. And on the next pass, the convoy was photographed with the doors on the truck open, something on the bed on a tarp, and servicemen all over on the ground, both sides of the convoy not moving, dead.
Wow.
So we sent in our team and covered it up. We had a couple Black Hawk helicopters come in and clean up all the wreckage around the crash site, the military men, everything, pack up the UFO and get it shipped off to Alabama before they shipped it wherever it went from there. And all the debris from the crash plane, the truck, and everything else was swept into a square shaft not far off the road from where this all happened. And a low-yield nuke was dropped down the hole and set off to cover the whole thing up, bury it, toast, there, gone. So, yeah, we monitor these things. And the Mexican Army, when they came up, they weren't prepared. They didn't have the right PPE, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And you got to think, anything that's above our atmosphere and in space is going to be absorbing radiation. And the stuff out there is not good. It can literally make your cells dissolve into goo in seconds. And any craft that comes down through the atmosphere and crashes, it's going to have significant amount of radiation with it still, until it's cleaned off or whatever. The space plane, when you see pictures of it at Vandenberg after it lands, and you see those guys in the white full suits sprayed it with the foam stuff, that's because it's been up for over a year. It's collected so much radiation, you can't go near it. It has to be cleaned first. Well, it's the same with some of these craft that come down. But, that's not the only thing you need to worry about is radiation. There's plenty of other things that can get you. There's microbes.
I have a question, Jeff. That what you are talking about right now. Do you believe that we landed on the moon?
Yes.
You do.
Okay, let me tell you this way. Yeah.
So you think we were able to get through that radiation field that you are talking about right now? You think we did that back in the 60s?
I know damn well we made it to the moon. We made it to the moon a few times. We even landed on it a few times. Yes. And that is a fact.
Okay. All right. How do you have this information? I'm curious. I'm kind of skeptical, I have to say. I am skeptical. I think it's
Yeah, she's
interesting.
always-
I am. I will be one of the first ones that say I don't think we landed on the moon. To be honest, I am. And
I put
I'm
you up there
curious
with the
as to-
flat earthers. Then I'm sorry. I have
I'm not a
no
flat
scientific
earther,
respect for you whatsoever from this point on, and I won't even go into it. If you think that you're allowed to have your opinion, but the rest of the scientific world is laughing at you. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's interesting because I want to see.
I don't
some
even
proof.
entertain
I
the
want
thought
to see
there.
some proof.
Oh my
You know,
God!
my-
You know what?
my
I
thing-
sat there in 1968 and watched it happen over TV while it happened. I followed the.
Well,
space
wait a
program.
second. Wait a second.
No, let me finish
We
talking,
can make-
Cindy, let
we
me
can-
finish talking because you opened this can of worms. Now you're going to feel my wrath, baby. Because
Oh, your
I
wrath!
paid attention to the space program from 1961 on. I watched all the launches. I watched the failures. I watched Gus Grissom burn up on the friggin' launch pad with the rest of the Gemini crew. I watched everything that these people went through. I lived right by JPL in Pasadena. I know a lot of the scientists that have worked on this. And for you to come up with some foolish statement that we never made it to the moon, you make my blood boil. See how red my face is? It's the most foolish.
Well, then maybe
thing I've
you need to
heard.
take your blood pressure
People think-
medicine.
You know, I'm about ready to check out of this interview right now. That's how foolish I think it is. That's how
Well,
foolish I think it is.
I don't know.
Well,
there's been a lot of stuff that says that it has
Not from
been.
anyone credible.
No, I mean this is like the whole thing with the flat thing, like
Not
Jeff has
from
brought
anyone
up. I
credible.
mean, I can't believe that people still
Period.
think that the Earth is flat. I mean that.
You know, the only
that-
thing the
that-
flat earthers have to fear is fear itself.
Yeah, that drives
Fear,
me nuts.
Sphere, S-C-H-E-R-E, sphere. Yeah.
We would
Perfect.
fall off the end of the Earth if the world was flat. I mean, that's where would all the water
Talk
go?
about as ridiculous as these people that say Nibiru is hovering over Sweden and you can see it. Do you know what the gravitational pull of another planet right there would do to us? It would literally split the planet.
Tear us
in half.
apart.
But yet,
Oh,
all
yeah.
these people see that and they believe that crap too. So,
Mm.
hey,
Thanks,
you know
Barry.
what? Everyone's allowed to have your own opinion, but scientific people don't have to buy it for an instant.
Scott asked, how many Apollo astronauts died of cancer in the 80s? Now, I remember there was quite
How many
a
were
few...
killed by the government?
Well, look at
What?
this. Now
You
we
know,
had
You're approaching,
what was-
you're approaching my threshold for reality here.
what was the one with the teacher that died? Which one was that? That was the
That was
80s,
the
right?
Challenger.
Krista McAuliffe, the
Krista
Challenger
McAuliffe.
explosion.
Yeah. It's like
1985.
here's my thing is the amount of work and taxpayers' dollars that goes into.
I was there and alive for that one, though.
Yeah. So when
Oh,
all
it
this
wasn't
taxpayers'
staged?
money. Oh,
What's
okay,
that?
guys. Okay,
It wasn't
guys.
staged, Sydney? Really?
No, they burned up in the atmosphere.
Oh, come on. That was a
What?
production.
And it was
That
on
was
TV.
a Ron Howard production. Come on.
All right, guys.
Okay.
So my point is like with all the amount of money that's taxpayers' money or the money that goes through the government to fund whether it be space research, and such things as like that when all of our technology, when we put a rocket up, we put our people in it, it explodes. We know that they go out. We have a space station out there. All this taxpayers' dollars. The government still sits there, and they claim that UFOs. Let me back up. Let me restate this. That for the longest time they said they didn't exist. Now they're saying, okay, we've been watching them. Then you have Navy pilots saying, what is this? They're videotaping them. They're saying, hey, now they have to submit that stuff, or they can submit that stuff without getting retaliation for doing so. And I want to kind of bring it back around to this because I think the people that are here watching tonight about the whole UFO thing are sitting where I am. It's like, so they're claiming they're letting all this stuff out. Where are we supposed to believe them, or how are we supposed to believe them now? And how much more are they keeping from us? And how much of that technology the taxpayers have paid for that they just feel, hey, we don't have to tell you anything. You know, even though it was our money, our people, you know, that ultimately sacrificed for this stuff. The government has always covered up this stuff, but yet they want us not to believe, then they want us to believe, and now they're saying they admit it, then they say, you know, what? How long does this go? How far does this go, Jeff, till they finally say, okay, here's everything we've got? When does that happen?
Well, I don't recall them ever saying, here's everything we've got. I don't recall them.
No, but will they?
Doing
That's my
anything
thing.
willingly. You know, these videos that were leaked, let's remind everyone, weren't released. It took 3 years before the Pentagon actually admitted that they were genuine. So nobody's released anything. Those were leaked. But let's go back and look at this a minute, because what they're releasing and what is everyone talking about? Okay, we know the story of how the Nimitz encounter. They were out on exercises, and they saw all these little things dropping from high altitude to right above sea level. Right. So they couldn't carry on the exercises because that would obviously interfere. So they sent out a couple of jets to go see what's going on. They get out there, and here's what you hear. You hear the story that they see a disturbance in the water. It looks like a large craft, okay? But then there's this little tiny tic-tac thing that's hovering above it that starts zipping around and whatever. Now, this is where the Tic Tac stole the narrative of the story, and you run off with it, and nobody goes back and asks, well, what about the big craft under the water? That's what I'm interested in. I could give a damn about the little Tic Tac. I want to know about the big craft and the interaction that was going on for hours and was recorded on radar for a couple days there, because that was nothing. That was something under there, but yeah, those are details that they aren't releasing, which tells you they aren't releasing much of the story at all, except for what got leaked. And they're doing that grudgingly at best.
Yeah, so it's just normal cover-up stuff. They just don't want us to really know. But I have a question.
It's the same old stuff over again. Same old stuff.
So the belief is that, okay, so just because of that story, so it's easier to believe that the crafts do lay under the water. What about, I know this is going to be far-fetched and it's going to sound, I don't know, like a movie, but what about the chances of any of those crafts being underground? I mean, under land. I mean...
Have you heard of deep underground military bases? We got them.
Yeah.
We got them.
Yeah.
And, you know, here's the thing. We have a machine called the smattering, which is this huge round disc with lasers on it that literally melts the rock, and as it's boring through, the sides, congeal to form solid around it, so there's no danger of cave-in. It's an awesome machine that the government uses for building its underground facilities and tunneling and stuff like that. We know that we have incredible facilities underground. All you need to do to make any type of base anywhere is drill a hole in whatever substance you're in, be it the ground, the seafloor, whatever, put an airlock on it, and you got an instant facility. You go to the moon, you drill a cavern or go into a cave, put an airlock on it, you got an instant facility. Same with anywhere you're at. You know, it's very easy to take what you have there and work with it. And we have that technology already. Now, you can't go down and monitor what's going on under the ocean. Joe Schmo can't say, hey, I'm going to go for a putt around the Marianas Trench today, see what's cooking down there. Sorry, nobody can. You don't know what's going on down there. They could have a friggin' city down there for all we know. We have no way to verify anything.
Yeah, we can't.
But we do know that logically, the pressures of the ocean would make it very difficult to do such a thing unless you went all the way down to the bottom, went underground, and then you're just like anywhere else underground. Voila.
See, but that's, I mean, that, I understand that, but you have, I think I translated this wrong or sent it to you wrong, but the, what I'm more concerned about is like alien ships themselves. I mean, have we dug them up from the past? Like people say the aliens have been around forever. Look at the Egyptians. Look at Look at all the cultures way before us where they had writings on the wall. They had pictures on the wall of aliens and UFOs and all this stuff. Have we ever found anything like that under the ground?
According to Bob Lazar, which I haven't talked to Bob personally, but in his interview with Joe Rogan, he stated something that he didn't mention in the Bob Lazar Area 51 and Flying Saucers movie, but he mentioned in the Joe Rogan interview that one of the craft out at S4 had actually been recovered by an archaeological dig.
Oh, see, that's where I was.
To me, that would be the gold. I'd be way more interested in hearing about that than anything else practically, because that would verify that something had been around long enough for natural processes possibly to cover it. What's the story there? I'm supposing there. I'm having to guess, because of what I've heard, and I have no information other than that. But how you would come across something like that, and even where, would be fascinating little bits of information to find out.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, I would think so. I mean, because I like the history of things, so I like to dig into the past a lot, and so if we go to Egypt, if we go to even to where the Mayans were, I mean, there has always been a story or a tale of so many things today that seem outrageous. People that look like insects, UFOs, the spheres, rockets, all of this stuff. And so, to me, when I think UFOs, I'm thinking, why shouldn't I believe? Because everything in history tells us that was something here before.
Well,
that's even my line.
There's many cultures that talk about people that came from the sky and gave them the knowledge of farming and other things that they needed to have a go at it. It's repeated in many different religions. I personally am, one of my projects right now, I'm getting ready to go out once I'm allowed to leave the house again, go to some caves not too far from here, where the Chumash Indians used to frequent, and they left behind some pictographs depicting their interaction with the star people. These caves are really old, and the pictographs are really old. Last time I was out there was in like 1987, and the area was blocked off to where I can't drive out there anymore. Access is unlimited, or not, is limited now.
That's cool.
So Earl and I were trying to get out there for the documentary that I'm shooting. We were going to walk part of the trail, but it ended up being we'd have to park and walk 12 miles to get there from the side we were at, which, I don't know about you, but a 12-mile walk doesn't get me excited.
Me neither. Unless they got a scooter.
I talked to the ranger because, before I go back in any forest areas, I always talk to the rangers and find out what's going on. And found out that if I go around to the other end of the forest and park and walk from that way, I only have to walk 6 miles to get to the caves. And 6 miles I'll do. That's, a 3-hour walk, and stop and, sit and have a snack on the way and look at the scenery. And it's not uphill or anything. It's a flat road, so I'll make it out there okay. But I want to document these caves and get some good pictures of them, because a lot of the symbols that I remember seeing in these caves back then, I've since seen photos of in other caves around the world. Recently, it was sent photos by a friend, Ron Rieger, who has studied the Hopi Indians in Arizona and the pictographs that they left. And some of the photos that he sent me that he took there, I swear, are dead ringers and almost the exact copies of the images that are in this cave here back in Los Padres National Forest. And a recurring theme that I've seen around the world is this spiral that, it's not a closed spiral, it's an open spiral. It just gets smaller and smaller. And it's appeared in all kinds of different settings, along with pictographs of these large-headed peoples with large black eyes.
Large eyes, yeah.
So how these same symbols are printed, by peoples that have no connection whatsoever in geographically separate areas of the world, I find fascinating. There's got to be something to it. And, the culture's way of keeping their history, although a lot of it was verbal, a lot of them used the pictographs as well. And you can't discount, what they drew and say, oh, look, they drew a funny guy. But yet that elk or that antelope is what an astonishing work of art there. They did that so well.
Right.
Right. Obviously, they were pretty well adjusted at being able to convey what they saw into an image in whatever medium they used.
Robert White is saying that the Baltic Sea anomaly is a good instance where the craft needs to be waterproof.
They probably saw it.
Yeah.
Well, no, because they're in a field. That's why they're able to dive into the water and not even raise a splash. The same field that surrounds them that allows them to go through the air and hover and move at incredible speeds is the same field that allows them to move underwater at speeds we can't. Because they're not using the same technology. They're not using something that pushes through with resistance. They're using something that's in a field separate that kind of tilts and pulls where they're going towards them as they're going towards what they're have been pulled towards them. It's a weird interaction of physics that, what we know about the craft move anyway.
So how much of the technology that we're using today you think came from UFO technology?
I think quite a bit came from recovery of different items from different crashes. Look at where we are today and where we were 100 years ago, and you don't have to. It doesn't take a big stretch of the imagination to see some things that we definitely got a jump start on. Mainly the IC chip was one of them, which I think a lot of those technologies that they got from the Cape Girardeau crash lended them to have ideas that later, when they recovered stuff from Roswell, they were able to go, oh, okay, well, this would fit in later probably. And it's interesting, if you're a fan of Colonel Corso's work, he states that, he, of course, took over the UFO file at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and he was in charge of assigning the different technologies to different companies to have them backward engineer what was found. So I would say there's probably a lot out there that might have had origins elsewhere.
Well, I look at like the little microchips. I mean, they do so much? I mean, there is so much technology in those little microchips and everything they're doing. Like, people are getting chipped today. I mean, I'm like, that's something I'll never do. But it's like unless they make it something we have to do. But it's just amazing how small the technology is, and you have to wonder where that comes from.
First computer I was on in 1967 was an IBM mainframe, which is about the size of my house. You communicated with it using punch cards that would be fed into it, and it had, limited function, but if you spent enough time with it and you fed it enough cards, you could print out a really nice Snoopy calendar or something. But I think it's amazing that now my little phone here, this has way more computing power in it than that whole IBM mainframe did back then, or even the great supercomputers that were used in the 70s and 80s. We kind of put those to shame. Now, and the computing power now is exponentially so fast that it's getting larger. We now have the ability to use quantum computing, which we thought would be a little further off in the future, but appears they've had successful results now with quantum computing. And if that door is open, things are really going to start taking off at an incredible speed, because that was kind of like the last hurdle we were waiting for supercomputing, high-speed stuff in everyday homes.
Yeah, Scott makes a good point here. I
SR-71 was impressive at its time. Yeah.
But look at the craft that we have now today that that we don't even see. I mean, we know that they have.
Well, not only that, but the things that we know they have that are supposedly our highest tech objects. There's other versions of it, like the stealth bomber There's the public
Mhm.
version of it you see, and then there's also a higher tech version of it that isn't widely seen or widely known about. And where they got the idea to electrostatically charge the leading edges on these aircraft, you could only guess that they got that from craft that they recovered.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean,
also, I
that's
want to point out the
amazing.
Navy uses the same technology now on the bow of their ships to cut resistance going through the water as well.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, I was going to ask you earlier, and I didn't get to it, but what's your opinion of oh shoot, now of course I forgot the name of it. It's the farm. God, I can't think of it now. It's not that far from. It's in Arizona, I think, where they're seeing a lot of UFO stuff. I don't know why I drew a blank on that. Holy moly! I didn't write it down because I thought I'd remember.
It happens to the best of us, Teddy.
Yeah. Oh man.
Farm.
They're making a big deal. The Sky.
Skywalker Ranch up in
Yes,
Utah.
that's it. Skywalker. Yeah, there you go. Jeez, thank you, thank you, Jeff.
I haven't been there. I did have lunch with the current caretakers of it at the last Alien Con LA when I spoke down there, and was able to talk with them for a little bit about what's going on there. The reason that I give it so much credibility is because my friend George Knapp has been out there.
Isn't it Skinwalker Ranch?
Yes. And he's
Yes.
personally been befuddled by things that are going on there. So if George is befuddled and thinks that there's something going on, I'm willing to, personally, I'd like to go out there with some equipment and get measurements and see, what's going on myself. I'm kind of a show me individual. Some of the stories, if they are true, I may not want to see. I might wish I hadn't asked for it. But, scientifically speaking, I would want to take test equipment out and get measurements to see, the best way to record whatever it is that's going on there so it can be better studied.
Well, that seems to be like it's got the highest thing of everything in the paranormal realm. I mean, it seems like everything is going on out there.
Yeah, and, that leads me
I thought nobody was allowed there.
It's closed to the public. Yeah,
right.
You're not going to go walking in there, and it's heavily guarded. But there are still studies going on there at the moment, and I happen to know a couple that's caretaking the place.
Nice.
But, yeah, it's the real story, I think of it, and if there is something going on, might be more towards a paranormal bent than aliens, because it all boils back to the treatment of the Navajo and the Ute and the curse being put on the land because the Ute betrayed the Navajo. So, I know nothing of curses. That's not my cup of tea. But I do know that there's something going on that has a lot of people upset. Whether it has a measurable explanation to it that we can identify, I don't know. And like I said, I haven't been there to witness it myself. I'm going on secondhand information at best, and I'm never satisfied with any secondhand information.
Which is probably a good thing. I don't think I would be either. My thing is just like, and like, because of me being in the paranormal field and what I like about it, for me, it's going to sound stupid the way I put it, but it's the hunt, it's the research, the history, it's getting in to actually figure out what's going on. And Skinwalker Ranch is one of those that it just interests me so much. And now they have a show on it on TV to where you can, they're telling you what they find and what's happening and stuff.
Skinwalker Ranch does?
Yeah.
Is it like a live feed or no?
No, it's not live. It's a pre-recorded thing. But I mean, there's people that are having some type of I don't know if it's because of the land. I don't know if it's because of radiation. I don't know, what it is, but like people are getting affected with tumors and all this other stuff. And I could be off base on that, but that's what I believe the one episode was, is the gentleman that was there was having something to do with his brain, and it looked like a tumor at that time. But Barry Marsh says here the season
I was
finale
just gonna
is
say
Secrets
that,
of the
Barry.
Skinwalker Ranch is tomorrow night on the History Channel. So yeah, it was the History Channel that's running it.
Yeah. He
My
said
whole
it's been
thing,
a great season.
I love the whole thought of UFOs, and I really find this weird to me, and it actually makes my blood boil a little bit, where people are more apt to believe in UFOs than they are some of the other phenomena in the world. And I think it's because of the stories, or maybe not stories is the word I'm looking for, but the personal experiences that people have of the UFO.
Well, too, and it could be the cultural upbringing between different peoples. The stories around the world of different things. Gremlins, elves, pixies, woodland tales from, a couple hundred years ago could all be explained by UFOs too, or UFOs could all be explained by elves and pixies. This is the thing we don't know, and we're having to put our human viewpoint into an alien subject so that we can understand it and quantify it. When in truth it's alien. And you can't say, look, I saw this unknown craft, and then go on and list all these details about it that you would ascribe to something that, say, you knew was built in Michigan at a Pontiac factory, because you don't know.
Right.
Okay? You can only take unknown down the road so far before you enter the broad highway of supposition and guessing and fanciful wishing, quite frankly. And it's funny, some of the Europeans, they talk about us American ufologists. They say, the American ufologists, they're really nice guys, but they see UFOs in their pancakes. And they're kind of right.
Yeah. Well, there has to be something to said about these stories, though, that these people are saying. I mean, how many accounts have said, yeah, I was driving down a back road and I saw this really bright light, my car stopped. Now, I don't know if this is made up on TV or not, but people claim that this does happen. People claim that they've gotten burnt and their skin turns darker or whatever. I mean, these cases can't all be made up, could they?
Well, the Cash Lander is a good case example, where they were driving down the highway and saw that diamond-shaped craft and got out to observe it. And it was so warm, and she started to get back in her car and was burnt by the handle of the car door trying to get in. And, they, of course, developed cancer and had severe radiation sickness from proximity to it. But here's the thing. They also saw what they swear was Army helicopters come, a bunch of them, surrounded and escorted off into the distance, to where, some people say this was a broken arrow, which is, a nuclear missile accident of some type, or some other type of technology being tested that they accidentally drove into and got affected by the radiation from it. So, this could be a type thing where, was this military or was this from otherworldly craft? We don't know. To this day, the military denies the fact that they ever had any helicopters in the area. But yet all the witnesses state that they saw these big helicopters come in and usher it away. So how do you figure? And, I noticed you put on when you were advertising the show, you put my story about that ship I saw in Azusa back in 79 up there, which
I thought it was interesting.
Well, it's probably the most interesting thing I've ever seen in my life, Ted.
I was just kicked out.
And I'll tell you, when this thing took off, you remember old cathode ray TVs when you shut them off?
Yeah.
How they would get that line of light in the center?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, this thing was going by above above, and it was huge. This was easily a mile-long rectangular-shaped craft at a low altitude, maybe moving at a very low speed, which a bunch of people saw, not just me and my girlfriend. When this thing finally took off, it went from being a large, tangible object like this, something so large you cannot not see it, to all of a sudden being, I don't know if you ever saw the line paintings Picasso used to do with a flashlight where he'd move it so fast and he'd draw an outline of something. Okay, well, this thing stretched out into a line of light. Just whoop, looked like a line from the cathode ray TVs when you shut them off. And then all of a sudden, the ass end of the light went up to the front end where it was just a little pin pot. And then the pinpoint went up into the sky and gone. That fast. That is the most bizarre thing, guaranteed, hands down, I have ever seen in my life.
Interesting.
Because it reminded me of Star Trek, how like when they go into warp. That's what it reminded me of.
No, it was. That has colors in it and everything on that, and
right. But yours is just a solid.
It's just that fast line of light, and then whoop, gone. And I was just standing there with my jaw dropped open. And I said to my girl, all the people in the parking lot were whistling like they were at a concert, And, I said, this is going to be all over the news in the morning. It's going to be on the TV. It's going to be in the paper. No one's going to be able to cover this up. The next day, tumbleweeds going through town, silence on the airwaves, nothing on the news, remotely close. Well, this was 1979. In 1979,
I was 8 years old.
People with all their, faculties didn't talk about UFOs, or you were sent to the rubber room and you got to wear the little blankie vest, nice people didn't talk about UFOs then.
Oh, don't we know? I mean, be in the paranormal field for a long time. It's the same way. Back then, you weren't able to talk about ghosts or anything like that. You were put in a rubber room with straitjacket.
I will never poo-poo ghosts. And I don't know if you care to hear my story about them. It's a quick one.
Sure.
I was a professional musician most of my life, but in college, one of the guitar players I hung around with, I went to his house in Hacienda Heights. We were going to have a little party, get together with everyone. And going into his house, he had this really nice painting on the wall. It was in an ornate gold frame, and this distinguished older gentleman. And, that's our grandpa. And we think this house is haunted by him. And I kind of laughed.
Wow.
Okay.
Don't ever laugh.
I learned my lesson, okay? I went, okay. And, well, the evening went on. We partied, whatever. And when it came time for me to leave, as we're going out, of course, I had to pass by the painting. And again, I kind of chuckled with the host as we went by. And we went out to my car, which was parked in the driveway. And the driveway slanted down at an angle towards the house.
Yikes.
Okay. Now, I set my lighter on the roof of the car while I got in. And I had a old Dodge Dart at the time. It had a rounded roof, kind of. It wasn't flat. It kind of curved. Yeah, with the push button tranny and all.
Yeah.
Okay, so here it is. It's at an angle like this, and the roof is rounded. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I set my lighter down there on the driver's side. No way it's going to go anywhere, right? And we start talking for a couple of minutes. I tell Mike, okay, have a nice night. Oh, yeah, say goodbye to your grandpa for me. And I start to get in the car. But where's my lighter? Hey, Mike, did you pick up my lighter? No, I don't have it. We're looking all over the ground for it. Somehow, it rolled over the hood, dropped down the open window on the other side, and landed upright in the passenger seat.
Wow.
So
it's called drugs. It's called drugs and alcohol.
I said, Mike, I don't know what the hell I am. We finally found it. I saw it there. Both of us went, wow, that is just weird. Mike, I don't know what happened here, but I go, from this day forward, I will never laugh at ghosts. And I haven't. From that point on,
good job. Yes. No, you never. Listen, somebody says, this is haunted. I'm like, okay. I'm not going to not believe
They might
you.
know. They've been there longer than me. They might know.
That's right.
I know one thing. If I walked into a house and I heard a voice say, get out, fine, bye.
Unfortunately, I probably wouldn't, but yeah. So what's funny
what
is...
if the bird said, get out?
No, the bird, nah.
No,
right, so,
listen.
Depends on what type of bird.
I have to tell you this. It was a Congo African gray. So I had an experience. My mom and dad were gone. My daughter was gone. My brother wasn't there. I was the only one in the house. And this was pre-Cindy understanding and knowing she was a psychic medium. So I hear, get out. And I heard it with these ears. It was not inside my head. It was literally these ears. So I freaked out. I told my mom and dad about it after it happened the next day because I came in super late after they had gone out. And I do not do drugs. I do not drink alcohol. So my mom gets this bird about 2 weeks later. And it's a Congo African gray. It already talks. It knows how to talk. But it's there maybe a week at the most, if even. And all of a sudden, my mom was there when this happened. All of a sudden, the bird says, get out, in the same exact voice that I heard. The thing is I tell my mom, I'm like, did you just hear what the bird said? She's like, well, yeah, I just heard what the bird said. I'm like, it just said, get out. Exactly the same way I just told you happened to me a few weeks ago. And my mom goes, that's freaky. I said, yeah. No, the bird didn't even live there.
From. It wasn't the people she got the bird from?
No. No, it was obviously because birds can perceive things that people can't hear. A lot of times they can hear things.
I think probably a lot of animals do, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just crazy.
And see different things.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have you seen cats look up at something and they're, you know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dogs too. Cats and dogs both do it. Yeah, it was the craziest experience that I think I'd had. I was like, thank you, bird, for telling me. His name was Jocko. I said, thank you, Jocko.
Many researchers tend to think that the UFO phenomena is interdimensional.
I would say.
Of course, I think it could be many things. They don't all come from one place and they don't all drive the same car. But interdimensional is possible for some of the visitations, I'm sure, and would also explain some of the things, that we have from ancient history, like, beings that all of a sudden popped in front of travelers, and, they'd call them elves or pixies or whatever.
Right,
but, in reality, it might either just interdimensional travelers or whatever. So there's a lot. The fascinating thing is, and what's so wonderful is, we really don't know what we don't know. There's so much still to understand and to try and explore and figure out. And slowly we're getting our grasp on some of the newer technologies that are opening more doorways as it goes along. So what we might learn in the next 20 years, I'm sure, is going to be very fascinating.
Yeah, I think I think you're right on that. I'm still sitting here thinking, it's like, I don't want to miss the opportunity to, ask you questions that, and put aside from what comments are there, but things such as myself that I always wanted to know, because there's things that I hear and see sometimes that I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not sure of, but I've heard that there's several different types of aliens that have came here or still coming here. I've heard that they've been coming here since long before we were here. I've heard the tale that we even are an offspring of them in some sense, that we have their DNA in us. I've heard. I mean,
we've heard some aren't allowed on the earth anymore. There's
so
lots
Jeff,
of things that I've heard.
There's so much stuff that we hear, and it's like we don't. Who do we turn to? I mean, you guys do a lot of the reports of seeing UFOs and stuff like that. Do you guys deal with people just asking random questions like what I'm thinking of? Because I want to know, how many have we seen? Like, how many can we prove our existence? I hear little grays, big grays, different colors. I hear, there's different types of, like, I saw on the internet there was like 30 or 40 different types of UFOs. Different, like, there was one that looked like a tube, then there was one that had like a triangle, and then there was the round disc, and then there was, so I mean, it's kind of hard to
wrap your head around.
With all of this, it's like, so if all of this is true, what the hell? We're fucked. Sorry, but
not necessarily. If they've been around for that long, and we're not, as you put
we're not dead yet.
Then why we would think all of a sudden they're going to wake up with a bad attitude and say, screw it, let's push the button today. I don't see that happening.
Right.
And again, look at how big this universe is. And man has always had the problem of thinking that we're the most self-important thing in it. We've had this heliocentric viewpoint that everything revolves around us, even to the point where we took scientific minded people and burned them at the stake for their beliefs, or for their factual knowledge, should we say. So mankind is a pretty funny species. Our main pastime is tribal warfare. We don't seem to be too interested in helping others of our own kind, or even recognizing that others of our own kind might have the same rights to things just because of, say, where they're born, or their skin color, or any other number of impediments. So why would any other species from elsewhere in the universe be overly anxious to come here and get this germ on them and perhaps take it back home to their loved ones?
The scourge called humanity.
Pretty much. We're not at the point yet where I would want us running around the galactic neighborhood. We haven't grown enough.
We are supposed to be the youngest.
Well, we don't know. There might be even more primordial civilizations than us.
That's right.
Once again, we can't say that we're the measuring stick and everyone should be measured by us, because that's just not the case. And
true that.
as a child, people tried to tell me that our solar system was the only one. Well, I even knew as a kid that wasn't a fact. In fact, I kind of had a feeling that there were many galaxies and probably more universes, and who knows, maybe even more after that we can't even comprehend. Which I still wholeheartedly believe in today, that same philosophy. Yet, we're learning more and more how many actual worlds there are, how many suns have planets, and actual other solar systems there are out there. And we're actually finding how many of those planets might be habitable and live in what we'd like to refer to as a Goldilocks zone. And we even have a new initiative now that we're planning to use light sails and other technologies to get telescopes out in space where we can image continents and oceans on other worlds.
That'd be cool.
That's our latest imaging goal right now.
It's just amazing on how much technology
there's one,
we have.
There's more. That's right. Oh,
it's amazing.
Something. I thought I wasn't a medium yet when I was talking about my story. It was 1998, so it was a year after.
Okay.
I used to be a medium. Now I'm an extra large.
I used to be a medium. Now I'm small.
It's just somebody said something to me the other day about that we discovered there's another I'm afraid to even say it because I may screw it up, but they were saying that they found another universe or something simultaneous.
Oh man, you
universe
screwed that up so bad, Ted. Jesus.
I know,
oh, no.
but everything is in reverse. I mean, it's like it's working reverse of ours or something. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's technology.
They
pretty nifty.
discovered a universe where they think time runs in reverse from ours.
Yes, that's what it was.
So they're ahead and we're behind?
Well, our universe is entropy.
Our universe is what?
Entropy.
Entropy.
Okay.
Entropy. 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 At least that's what Robin Williams theorized.
Robin Williams.
And he was a scientist.
Same way find
my
that is.
friend.
Yeah.
A genius in comedy, yes, I agree. But yeah, we're finding now that the universe actually isn't slowing down; it's still expanding, and we have different areas with different reactions going on, different things. So, and also, the theories come around that perhaps it wasn't a big bang, but many little bangs that have created it, and there's many different bangs still going on.
Right.
Which I tend to think makes a lot more sense when you think of the physics behind it all.
Yeah, I want to take a moment here because we've had a lot of people.
I like what Robert just said.
Oh, his joke: midget psychic felon escapes from jail. The police are on the lookout for a small medium at large. Robert, your card. I love it.
I love it.
Tonight's episode, guys, just want to say real quick, is brought to you by DeVille Inc. Tattoos and more, please. Yeah, so go out and check out DeVilleInc.com.
Yes, it is 10:06.
They are family, and we love them. So
we love them. Awesome. Those DeVilles.
So I just want to finish this up, Jeff, so that you can go and get your ribs and all that.
Man, I just want to tell them. I'm surprised I haven't drooled yet, but yeah.
But you have been sitting here and not having your ribs? Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Oh, you poor thing.
So I just want to say thank you for coming on.
All right, you're 3 hours
and hanging out,
though, right?
And hanging out with us and discussing this stuff. I still got a whole bunch more questions, and I don't know if I'll ever be satisfied with anything that I hear, because I want to see this stuff. I want to be able to experience it myself.
Let me direct you to the MUFON website. We have what's called CMS there, where we have many more cases than have been put online. We're still in the process of taking the cases from way back in history and getting them available online. But we have an incredible selection of all the cases there for you to look at. You can compare if you're looking for disc sightings, triangle sightings, entity sightings, abductions. All the different characteristics are separated there for you to evaluate.
Awesome.
And there are some fantastic cases in there. If you're interested, let's spend some time. There's some great testimonials from different people and video clips also that you can look at. So yeah, I would really recommend, if you have questions, go to the MUFON website, www.mufon.com. And if any of the listeners see anything and you'd like to file a report, please go to the website, and right there you'll find a little place where you can click that says file a report.
Yeah. And I, myself, I've looked at it a couple times. I myself have thought about alien abduction, and we've talked to people that have claimed to have abductions or have been abducted. I'm not real. I'll be honest with you. I'm not real versed in the UFO thing. I'm interested, but I'm so caught up in my own head with some of this other stuff that I do most of the time with the paranormal. But the paranormal to me covers everything. Yes, I'm a Bigfoot guy.
Right.
I love Bigfoot. Yeah. I'm surprised I didn't ask Jeff that whole thing about Bigfoot and UFOs. I'm surprised I didn't ask him.
Have you not seen Star Wars?
I haven't watched them all. I'm a Star Trek fan.
There's Bigfoot sitting right next to Han Solo. Come on.
Thank you, Chewie. Come on.
That's true.
You don't know how many reports there are of Yeah, Bigfoot. In fact, there's a great documentary on Amazon Prime right now. I just got done watching about the Bigfoot UFO connection.
Oh shoot! Really?
Yeah. Many.
Okay, I'm gonna go watch it.
You know, again, I'm not a Bigfoot hunter, but I get lots of reports that are tied in with the UFO, and you have to wonder: is there a connection? Are they one of the occupants? Are they one of the people coming to visit us in the craft? And because they don't look like the little guy following the trail of Reese's Pieces, I can't say no. No,
Right.
maybe they are.
What was the name of that?
Interdimensional.
What was the name of that show?
Unknown's unknown.
Jeff, what was the name of that movie you just watched?
E.T. Oh, the special? I'm not.
That was funny, Jeff.
I'm here all week.
I'm gonna go watch it.
I think it's
until Thursday. Try the deal.
Yeah.
2 out of 3 ain't bad, Jeff. Get it, Meatloaf? 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Nice.
That's one demerit.
Well, it's just I've always I hear it a lot, and a lot of people claim that Bigfoot and UFOs have something to do. And I've heard the whole theory that the aliens put Bigfoot on the planet to babysit the humans. Well, you know what? He's doing a pretty shitty job of babysitting.
I don't know. We're still here. We haven't burnt the place
can't even
down.
see him. We can't even talk to him.
Maybe he's doing a great job.
Sure, we're still here. They're still here.
Yeah. Well, you never know. All right. So you guys, I want you to check out MUFON.com if you have any questions. Like Jeff says, there's a bunch of stuff. There's a lot. There's a lot of stuff.
Are you reading, Barry?
If you have any questions, if think you've seen something, if you really just don't let the curiosity kill you, go. There is a place where you can look it up. It's MUFON.com. Right there. I'll leave it up there again. Please check it out. And Jeff is very, very, very informational. He has a lot of information there. So
knowledgeable.
I'm sure that knowledgeable, yes. So you can reach out to him as well. I'm sure you wouldn't mind, right? So I'm just kind of throwing you out there and in front of the bus there. Jeff.
Hey, thanks for throwing me under the bus there, Ted. Yeah.
So Jeff Krause is his name. So please, he's the California State Director for MUFON. And I want to thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
I'm probably going to have to bring you back because I still have a whole bunch of more questions, and we just don't have the time. So, thanks, Chanel. Chanel put it in there too. www.mufon.com. She was helping. Right, isn't that sweet?
I know. I can't see Chanel. She must be on
the
other one.
But that's
sweet. Hi, Eric.
But there's so much out there with UFOs. I mean, I actually thought I saw one when I was a kid. But to be honest with you,
so with Jessica and myself too.
When you see stuff, especially when you're younger, it's not like today where you have a phone that has a voice recorder. It's not like you have that little, what do they call these things, to where you can punch it in on your phone. You can write on your phone. It's got the little rubber tip on the end.
Stylus. Yes, thank you.
Yes, a stylus. So, I mean, back then we didn't have
necessity
that stuff,
in the age of coronavirus, I'm telling you.
Hey, is that alien technology?
A little rubber thing on a stick.
The touch screen just might be. If you want to do a show on technology, I'll tell you, my dad worked for 40 years for Pacific Telephone. And he was in charge of the changeover from what was called crossbar, which was the old system of physical wires coming in conduits and going up to banks of relays, and I mean long banks of relays in an office building, switching over to fiber optics. Again, another technology from...
Right, I was just going to say, another technology that we didn't have.
I could tell you, we could do a show on the crossover of technologies and OSI influence and possible market seeding of technologies that were improved upon through various companies such as Westinghouse and Ma Bell and Lockheed Martin, Sperry Avionics. Yeah.
You know what, Jeff? I may just have you come on my other show, Talk with Teddy, and we can sit and chat about it. I think that would be awesome.
That would be fun.
That would be fun. Yeah.
But isn't that the one that's on late at night?
Yeah, well, it's 8 o'clock
it's late
for you. It's 8 o'clock
3
for
hours. It's like 8 o'clock for you.
Do you know what
8
time
to 10 for you.
That's like about an hour and a half after my bedtime, roughly.
Oh man, my folks.
Holy macaroni!
No, I'm teasing.
My folks go to bed at 8. My folks go to bed
about
at 8.
right. It's about 8:30.
Yeah, and then they're up at like what, 5 or 6?
Yeah.
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 But the sun's up at 5 here, so you know.
Yeah. There you go.
And when you have birds, you can't sleep in.
Hey, just be thankful it's not a rooster, Jeff.
But Monty's not my only bird.
Oh, okay.
We have a flock of about 30 wild turkeys that roost at the end of the street right here.
Oh,
and before dawn, they're making noise in the trees.
Oh shit! I like
and
what
then
Barry
flying
just
out
said.
of the trees down, and sometimes they'll even land on the roof here. But they're all over running in the streets and everything before sunrise. And
Yes,
turkeys
Barry.
are not
Yes,
quiet.
Barry. Did you see
Oh
what
my
he said?
gosh. Yeah, I did. He said maybe some of these
Jeff?
companies might be ran by aliens.
Yep.
That's what he said.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
I
You
don't
know,
know.
Collusion.
you
Collusion.
just don't know.
We
I'm
don't
pretty
know.
sure.
Collusion with the government.
I'm pretty sure the government put a lot of these technologies in the hand of private industry, just so that
Yes.
we can't write freedom
It's
of
called
information.
collusion.
Well, it's so we can't write Freedom of Information Act requests to these companies
Right.
about these technologies because they're not
Exactly.
vulnerable to that. Only the governments
Right.
are and military
Right.
institutions. They put it in
And
the
we
hand of
know.
private industry, and then it becomes a trade secret. And from there on, it's lost to us.
And we know that
Right.
there's a lot of that going on. We know there is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's
Oh, yeah.
technologies now in place.
What? You mean there is shady shit in the government? There is fake shit in the government?
No.
I don't
loud.
think so. I think you guys are mistaken.
The government isn't smart enough. It's the people that are actually in control, not the government.
What?
You don't think morons like Trump
Oh,
are in
shit,
control, do
Funny
you?
as fuck.
Oh my God, come on. No, it's the real people in control.
No. Fuck no.
All right, you guys. All right, so everybody, thank you so much for tuning in here for Paratalk Radio. We had, I myself had a great time. I love talking about things that I don't know, and
Me
it's
too.
obvious
I need
that
to.
don't
we need
know.
to talk about.
You know,
We
it's
need to
obviously
talk
I
about
don't-
what's coming up for us, though. Also, Teddy.
We will. But
Okay.
it's obviously I
just wanna
don't
make
know as much, with the whole UFO thing. I mean, do I believe in UFOs? I'm going to leave by saying I
Those
think
people
so.
that have
I
money
think-
and power. That's right. Robert.
I think I believe in UFOs.
You
Just
believe
like
enough of
I-
them to do a 2-hour, some odd minute show on them.
I know. And,
I believe in
yeah,
them. I believe in UFOs.
There's you can't tell people, you can't tell a
I
million
believe in
people they're
aliens.
fucking crazy. So there's enough people out there that claim this, and I like to say, hey, if you can believe in UFOs and Bigfoot and everything else that's out there, well, why not? We should be looking at the wonders of the world and beyond our world, and UFOs are part of that. And we should keep an open mind. We shouldn't be so straight and narrow sometimes with the way we look, or think. Keep an open mind, folks. Keep an open mind.
Right.
So Tuesday night for me, just so everybody knows, on Talk with Teddy, which is tomorrow night, I have a fireman and EMT who is also a singer-songwriter, country singer-songwriter, who has done some amazing things. He's going to be joining me on Talk with Teddy tomorrow night at 11 o'clock. So come and check out Mr. Paul Cummings with me on Talk with Teddy. So what you got coming up, Cindy?
I have a Tarot Tuesday live at 7 p.m. Eastern.
I thought it was Taco Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday! Tarot Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, doing free readings. And we have so much fun doing it. Come and watch, you guys. Have fun with it.
Sounds great. All right, Jeff, thank you again for popping in here. Everybody, MUFON.com. Please go in and stalk Mr. Jeff Krause. Stalk him. Stalk him. He would answer your questions, but he will definitely point you into the right direction for the questions and the information that you have. So, all right.
Oh, shoot.
Everybody.
It broke us up a little bit. Hang on. Okay, you have to repeat what you just said because we broke up. You broke up.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I just said everybody can go and stalk Jeff Krause. He if you have questions and stuff, I'm sure he can point you in the right direction, or give you some of his thoughts and information on anything that has to do with UFOs. So that I love it, Jeff. So yeah, that'll work for you, guys. Remember one thing here at Paratalk Radio: wherever there is darkness, there is always
the light.
Thank you for listening to Paratalk Radio with Ted Wolf and Psychic Cindy. Catch us next Monday for another fantastic guest. Please check out our show as well as others on the WLFE DB Radio Network. And remember, like, follow, and share with everyone.
Join us at WLFE-DB.com for upcoming shows and so much more.